Hey, 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 we are live. Welcome to Live Dream Interpretation Fridays. Excited to be here with you. Yes, I'm in Waco. As you can tell, we have these shirts at our church, and I love them. So without further ado, I am going to hop right in. It's just me today. Anna's busy. She's packing. She's getting ready for her move. So this is my first time managing StreamYard on my own. Hey, 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 we are live. Welcome to Live Dream Interpretation. So, yeah, I'm going to bring in Toddy Fisher, who has a dream. Hey, Toddy, you're muted.
Yep, I just
There you
saw
go.
that.
Awesome. How you doing today?
I am wonderful.
Good deal.
Oh, no, that wasn't very convincing, but I am, for real.
Good. So you had a dream.
Yes. So I'm going to basically read through what I sent you. I don't know if you'd already looked at it or not, but I'll read through it because I wrote it down to help make it quick. Okay. My two sisters-in-law and I were going to some kind of event, like a focus group, where celebrities were. One sister-in-law, she seemed really ready to go in and like do battle, like intercession battle. I just happened to notice that about her. We started looking in the building for the room that this group was supposed to meet. Before we'd gone up to the elevator and made it to this room, I knew that there were a couple other family members that were already there. I just had that sense, had that feeling. We stopped at the first room, and that wasn't the right room. So we kept moving through the halls. The halls looked kind of old and like tattered for the inside of a building. We took an elevator ride up and got off the elevator, right floor. We went into this room where the meeting was, and one sister-in-law with me, she said, "Oh yeah, this is the place because there's Jerry," as in Seinfeld. We walked around this. It was like a sectional couch set up. They were like in a circular fashion, so kind of like a big, kind of rounded sectional. I guess like two big pieces, really. And they were, set up to where it was, like a oval type. And so, she noticed Jerry apparently from the back because he was sitting on the side where his back was to the entrance of the room. So, but anyway, she said, "Yeah, this is the place because there's Jerry." So we walked around the sectional. She stopped and shook his hand and patted his shoulder. I commented that I didn't know Jerry was at this event, but I recognized somebody else that was in the room, sitting, on that couch thing too. She smiled and waved, sat down opposite side of where we were gonna sit. The sectional couches were like old style couches. Don't know why I noticed that, but they were. So anyway, the one sister-in-law that was glad to see that we'd made it in because Jerry was there, she seemed to be really excited and enamored, by this whole experience. I could tell that this was going to lead to me somehow getting involved with this industry if I had liked it or just acted normal or just been myself, because it just would have been kind of an inviting thing. Anyway, the person that I noticed, that I knew, was a lady. I don't know who she was, but she smiled and she said, I knew you were going to be here, or I hoped you'd be here. And I just kind of was like, I smiled because I like I said, I didn't know who she was, by name or memory of a name. And she said, I did really listen to the voicemail I left you. And I just remember having the thought, Lord, I don't want to work in Hollywood. And I woke up.
Wow. So you're going to be a movie star, huh?
I don't think so.
You and Jerry Seinfeld with your own show? That sounds promising. I like it.
My mother does have connection with him, but I don't think so.
So initially when you went into the building, you said you were with your sister-in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of building was it?
It just looked like a building that you would see, maybe
an office building,
like downtown LA. Yeah, office building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you said, did I hear you say you were going in like to do battle or to do war or something?
No, that's what it was. Two sisters-in-law that went with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One of them, that was what she was about. That's what she was ready for. So, I'm ready to go in and get it done. Yeah.
All right, cool. And so you go up you get on the elevator, you go to the right floor, you get off, you go to the right, you enter this room. Jerry Seinfeld's in there with his back to the door. There's an oval table and an old sectional couch. And you guys sit down and you begin to talk to a lady that in the dream but in real life you don't know who it was.
Yeah.
And you're just talking about.
Well, she knew me. She recognized me.
Okay.
Yeah, and said she was glad I was there. She had hoped I was going to be there. And to prove it, she said, listen to your voicemail that I left you.
Well, that's really interesting. What do you do right now for work, or what industry are you in?
In IT for government.
Okay. And you don't have any desire to be in Hollywood, huh? There's a little bit.
No, not like that. My hesitation is because I technically already have a tie to entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
My family is a known family, but no, not in any side of like in front of the camera yeah.
Wow. Okay. I like this dream. It's an interesting dream. The idea of your sisters-in-law going with you, or the idea that you had a legal team. You had a legal right to be there. They were family. They were your posse. They were also the in-law part represents you had a legal team and a legal precedence to be there. And again, like you said, one was ready to go to war. She was kind of like I'm going to clear the way. Whatever we need to do, we're going to get it done.
Right.
If you're going into a situation, particularly to sign contracts to be involved in Hollywood or something, that's exactly the kind of person that you would want with you and the kind of attorney that you would want on your side. So you wouldn't have to go in and ask all the tough questions. You could just kind of go in there and smile and look pretty and meet Jerry and talk to the people and all of that. So I feel like that part of the dream is saying that you're ready. You're ready for an opportunity. And I feel like the opportunity could be actually in LA. Where do you live, by the way?
Colorado.
Okay. So
but I am from California. And
you're from California.
Yeah.
I used to live in Marina Del Rey for a bit, but I lived 13 years. I lived all over California, north and south. And
I have lived in LA.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
And I have family that lives there still now.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like there's going to be an opportunity, and it may not necessarily be like to move to LA, though it could be that as well. But it's going to be to work with an LA company, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be easy. It's going to be a choice for you to decide if it's something that you really want to do or not. I feel like Jerry Seinfeld represents the idea of fun and humor and funny, and most people would want to work with him just because of his persona, because they think, wow, what a blast to work with that guy all day long. So I believe that's what he represents in it, is he represents fun and amusement and just kind of a good time, a pleasant work environment. The oval table is interesting. a round table may signify like unity. An oval table may signify things out of balance a little bit, which may mean that you help bring those things in balance. But it's also interesting because they're looking for somebody else on their team, and clearly they want you because you're there. You brought your team with you. They had called you and left you a voicemail, but apparently that's not why you're there, because you didn't even get the voicemail.
Right.
So they're pursuing you, and they're wanting you to be there and to be a part of what's happening. So I think that's awesome. I also think that the sectional couch, a couch is like a place of rest. It's a place of communing, that's a place of relaxing. But the fact that it's sectional is like, I feel like it can also represent balance in your life, just having different places, making time for rest. And that actually, that may be what the whole room represents, is the idea that you need to have more fun. You need to hang around with Jerry Seinfeld-esque people. The table is a little bit out of balance. In other words, everything that's on your table, everything that you're doing in your life is oblong. It's not round. It's not square. It's a little bit, and there needs to be sections in your life that you coordinate time where you're going to sit down, have fun, join with people. And I feel like even more than, I do feel like there could be a business opportunity coming your way that's related to entertainment. But I feel like the real main thrust or part of the dream is the idea of you setting firm boundaries. That's why you have your sister-in-laws with you, your legal team, setting really firm boundaries on having fun, on resting, on taking time off, and sectioning different parts of your life to facilitate that.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Okay.
I'm only laughing because I've heard bits and pieces of this over the last little while. Wow.
Well, that's good. Well, that's awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing your dream with us.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
All righty. Later.
Bye-bye. All right. Next, I'm going to bring in Laurie. Laurie Wall. Hey. How are you? Other than muted, how are you?
Sorry.
That's okay. I love that look in people's eyes when they realize they're muted. They're like, oh, what do I do?
Oh, no. I have a really short one that's my son's, or I have a not super long one that's mine. So I'm gonna let you choose which one you'd rather do.
Well, let's do the son's, and then you can stay in the back in the studio, and if we have time, we'll come back and do yours too.
Okay. So my son dreams a lot, and his are short, so his are just a little bit easier.
How old is he?
He is 9.
All right.
Yeah. So he said that, I wanted to bring him in, but he's out playing. He said that he was out in the front yard playing and Thor was there. So the Marvel character Thor. And there was a little girl coming up the road. She had blonde curly hair. He couldn't make out her face. She was wearing a sweater and tight jeans. And then all of a sudden, millions of tires started coming up out of the ground. But they were like, they had mouths on them, and he knew they were bad. So Thor started throwing sticks at them. Sticks. I don't know why. I've asked why he didn't use the hammer, but I'm just telling you what he said. And then after Thor threw all the sticks at the millions of tires, he vanished, and the king of all these tires came up out of the ground, and he was enormous. And Brandon was scared and didn't know what to do. So he ran and found a machete and stabbed it and busted it, and they all went away.
Wow. I love this dream. This is a very, very powerful dream. It's a dream of identity and destiny for your son.
Okay.
And it's important that he hears this when, you can play it for him later or whatever.
Yeah. I did kind of think it was, and I told him that, but I'm glad to hear that you agree.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I got it right. So, but yeah, it's the idea of literally standing with what we call in spiritual intelligence mentorship, dread champions. Thor is a dread champion. He's the kind of person that would go in front of an army. You think of David and Goliath, they send out their strongest man, or you think of Achilles in the movie Troy. They send out the two strongest men, one from each army. They fight. Whoever wins the day. Instead of killing hundreds of thousands of people, they just decide, well, if you guys win, we'll serve you. If we win, you serve us.
Right.
So he's out there with that kind of a person, a known warrior. And while he's there, this enemy literally comes up. There's literally a ground swell. It's an enemy that's coming out of the ground. So it's been a hidden enemy. It's a covert enemy. It actually could have to do with, I don't know how deep I want to get, but if depending on how woke you are, there's certain elements in our country that live underground. Underground military bases. There's things that are underground. The term underground itself means certain things. But what's happening is those things are about to be exposed, and they're coming up to the surface. They're surfacing. They're things rising to the surface. The idea that their tires are really interesting. Tires in particular don't sound particularly scary.
Right.
But they're tires with mouths on them that, like, I suppose could bite you or something, right?
Yeah. Well, I asked him, I said, so why were you scared if they were just tires? And he said, because they were scary. So, like, I had thought like demonic. I mean, I don't know that they were, but like that was the way all of his dreams he feels are scary. So he views all of them as scary. And I've tried to talk to him about how I had the revelation through you, that all dreams come from God. So there's a message there. And so you don't have to be scared of them. I said, look, you were victorious in the dream. You were able to defeat the king of all of them. There may have been millions, but you were able to defeat the king, and then they all went away. So I don't know that they are demonic, but that was kind of what I thought.
Well, tires are black, typically. Tires are also, a lot of times tires are thrown into landfills and they're just buried, but that's not really the proper way to dispose of them. That certainly isn't recycling them. That, and I think it's a toxic waste hazard to an extent. I don't know how long it takes for tires to decompose if you bury them in the ground, but it's the whole idea of something that was part of a vehicle to destiny, obviously part of a car, something that made things go. Okay. And it could have been like part of our country. And, the people that are considered what some refer to as the deep state are people that have been involved in an administration like the prior administration, and their holdovers from that administration into the new administration. And they don't really recycle those people well. They just kind of stay in their positions. But if they have the views that the last administration has, they can coordinate and cause trouble for a new administration. That's a real basic idea of what people talk about when they talk about allegedly the deep state. Now, I know it goes deeper than that, but the idea is that it's underground. It's people who are entrenched in positions that nobody knows about. Okay. And so it's the idea that tires, we didn't really dispose of them properly. We just dig a hole and throw dirt on them, which is not really what you want to do. And if you continue to do that at some place, there's probably going to be a hazard there. It's going to be hard to use that land. You're probably going to have to dig up all those tires if you want to build a building or a subdivision and dispose of them. And so it hasn't been properly dealt with. Mm-hmm. But they were part of the system at one point. They were part of making things go. They were part of the vehicle to destiny, whether it was for the country or for a corporation or for an individual. And basically they haven't been disposed of properly. And now they're literally coming up, they're surfacing, they're coming out of the ground. Imagine like a landfill that had a deluge of rain, and now there's all this junk that's just there, and it's unseemly and unsightly. But these are things that actually have a personality to them. They're demonic in a sense. And they're coming up to attack the people that are there. Well, who's there but Thor and your son? But I think what's really interesting is the fact that Thor decides to throw sticks at him. When you said that, I had a picture of, remember, like, and there's pictures of like back in the day. I mean, like back in the early 1900s, 1800s, people would have like a bicycle tire and they would have a stick and they would like hit the stick and the tire would roll and they would play this game with it. And I felt like that's what Thor was doing. Thor was playing by throwing sticks at tires. He's really playing with them. Like, why didn't he use his hammer? Why didn't he slam his hammer on the ground and blow them all up or whatever? But it was your son actually that went and got the machete, right? Mm-hmm. And then the king of the tires or whatever came up and he went out and he poked it and basically deflated it and they all went away, right? He stabbed it.
That's right. That was after Thor left. So Thor left him alone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So these are the people that we would think in a 9-year-old mindset. You think you would be safe with this Thor there. You know, he's somebody that's going to help me. We're going to protect me. We're going to do this together, blah, blah, blah. Right. Thor bails. And that's the people that should be dealing with problems like this. They're not there. They're not around. And so he has to fight literally the battle on his own. And so what he does is he gets the biggest, fiercest thing that he can think of, which is a machete. And when the tire king comes up, he's the one that stabs it and takes it down. It's kind of like a David and Goliath moment. Okay. And I believe these tires represent not people per se, but principalities. I believe they represent something that's literally been underground. I believe it's more of a national thing than it is a regional thing. Where do you guys live?
We're in Georgia.
Okay, so I don't think it's like a Georgia state thing or anything like that, though it could have some repercussions there. I believe it's more talking about a national level. And I hear the verse, the earth groans for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed, right? So the earth doesn't want these tires in them because that's not where they should be and that's not properly disposing of them. And so they come up and they surface and this stuff is coming out of the ground that's being exposed and it needs to be dealt with. And your son is the one that realizes, well, what it is it's a demonic principality and I need to take it out. Thor left, so I'm going to deal with it. And he does. And so again, it's a dream of, it's like a David and Goliath moment. It's a dream of identity, of destiny. And I think it's awesome for your son to have this dream because I think it speaks well of who he is. And again, we got to think of it from his point of view. You know, adventure movies are awesome. I like them, but I'm sure 9-year-old boys like them even more, right? But when you have a dream that has Thor in it, I think it's really telling. But it's the idea also that who he thought was going to be his hero bailed, and so he actually had to become the hero in his own story. That's a great dream. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing it with us. All right. Bye-bye. Kelly Morris.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Okay, I have mine written out so that hopefully it goes a little faster. I was in bed sleeping. It was not at my house. It was somewhere else. And 45 calls me on the phone wanting to talk. He comes in my room. I'm still laying in bed in my pajamas, but it doesn't seem weird. He sits in a chair next to the bed and we start talking. It then shifts and I'm out of bed, still in my pajamas. 45 is sitting in a chair where my bed was, and I remember thinking he took my place. A woman is sitting in his lap. It could have been his wife, but I couldn't see her face. A bunch of other people were there. I think all of his oldest kids were there. Then the scene shifts. I'm in a small room. The walls are all white. I think I remember seeing 2 twin beds. There were 2 images and picture frames there, but they weren't on the wall. One made me think of the Royals, but I can't remember what it was. The other was of a big tan hat. It made me think of the hat the man wears in Curious George. And I could see a child's feet popping out from underneath the hat, like they were hiding in the hat. And in the dream, I remember thinking of trafficking. Maybe this child was hiding from their abusers. I think my sister was in the room with me. There were 2 doors to get into the room with old locks, like 1920s style, like double locks. And I proceed to lock the door so no one can get in. And while I'm locking the first door, someone is trying to open it. I tell them they're not allowed while I try to lock the door. Then I finished locking the first door. I ran to the second door before the guy could get there. There was a struggle. Like he was trying to turn the doorknob while I was trying to lock it. I finally get it locked. And then he looks through the window in the next to the door. And I saw there was a huge bodybuilder guy, very short in stature, but had massive arms, was wearing a tank top. I remember thinking we need to put up signs when people can come by. I did feel a bit scared by being there. It then shifts again, the scene shifts, and 45 comes by. He's in the passenger seat of a convertible, and his youngest son is driving. I get the feeling he was teaching him how to drive. There was a girl in the back seat of the car. I got the impression that it was his son's friend. I think 45 is dropping something off to me, but I can't remember what. He says to me, "Just be glad you've got your foot." I think he had a broken foot, and that's all I remember.
Wow, this is a large dream with a lot of symbols. What I think is interesting is the idea that your proximity. You don't know where you were, do you?
I thought I was at the White House, but I wasn't positive.
Okay.
If I was. There was a lot. I remember when I woke up that there was way more detail to it, but I couldn't remember it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I think it represents a level of spiritual closeness, because there's so many things happening, from you being in this room to his family being there to his son, how to drive. There's just a lot. And I believe that, and even, the Curious George hat, when you said the tan hat, that's immediately what I thought of was Curious George. The idea of something hidden under the hat. And there's so much depth to this dream. It would literally this is the kind of dream that you should probably write out. Are you familiar with the Joseph method?
Yeah, I've been watching like your videos on that stuff, the series that you're doing.
Okay.
And I've even this is one from actually a month ago yesterday. And I get dreams this detailed almost every night, and it seems extremely overwhelming to try to figure them all out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get God will show me, and then with this one I was like, I don't even know where to begin with this.
Wow. It sounds to me like there's going to be it's like an assignment. I feel like the fact that you were in this place, and the fact that you were observing what was going on. Were they interacting with you much? Was talking to you?
45 was, especially in the beginning of the dream, he called me on my cell phone saying he wanted to talk to me. When it shifts to him being in a sitting in a chair, I don't remember much interaction then. And then of course at the end of the dream, where he says to me, "Just be glad you've got your foot," he was interacting with me directly.
Okay. So I feel like what this represents, obviously 45 is not currently in the White House.
Yeah.
Right. But what I feel like it represents is it's there's a lot of people that want him there. So I feel like it represents potentially a future hope, but also a kind of reminiscent of the past. Right. Mm-hmm. And so since it's not a literal reality in our world today, what I feel like it's talking about is talking about 45 in the general sense. For a lot of conservative Christians, they look at the idea of 45 as being probably the best president we've seen in our lifetime, even more so than any of the conservative presidents or certainly any of the liberal presidents. So there isn't really anybody, probably even all the way back as far as JFK, that people of a certain mindset or belief, particularly conservative Christians, can look at and say, that guy was my president, except 45. So I feel like he's that strong representation of what we want in leadership in the country. What's interesting is you're in the proximity. You've been called on the phone, which means you've been summoned, which means there's literally a calling on your life related to this. I believe it's related to national level politics. It could be as simple as intercession and possibly advising, because you're in the room and you're in the room with family too. So it's not just a kind of a work role, but it's also a role of familiarity, of being comfortable with, if he's going to bring his kids around you, it's a different level than if you're just going to be in the Oval and you walk in and he says, what do you think I should do with economic policy? That's an advisor, right? So an advisor, that's also a friend. So I believe that this is a calling, and what God is doing is he's beginning to prepare you for being one of those people that could literally stand before kings. Not only stand before kings, but be comfortable in their presence, be comfortable in the presence of their family, and be around as life is happening, is teaching his son or daughter how to drive. There's people walking by, there's family in the room. And there's a lot of details that could really provide even more fine tuning, but that's the general gist of what this is saying. One of the ways that God wants to he uses dreams a lot of times to wake us up. So if you don't have any background in politics, if you don't have any family in politics, and he's calling you to be an advisor or an intercessor for someone at a national level, how is he going to show you that other than give you visual illustration of that in dreams? And as he does, the desire builds in your heart, and it begins to prepare you over time and over even maybe a period of years to begin thinking about this, to be then put in a position where stuff is about to happen. So that's the purpose of the dream, and that's what the dream is. I believe it's foretelling, is the idea that you're going to have a place in national level politics. I believe it's foretelling, meaning it's down the road. It doesn't really have a time frame according to the symbols of the dream that I see. But I feel like the actionable intelligence is to begin to get ready for that. Okay. And part of that is learning how to stand before kings, understanding things like favor and honor. If you're into dreams, maybe being a part of our spiritual intelligence mentorship, just because we talk about those things and interpreting dreams of presidents, of people in positions, understanding the call of a Joseph or a Daniel and what that looks like from a practical standpoint. Yeah. So does that resonate with you?
It does. Like, do you have any, like, what the foot thing could be? Any idea on that? I thought that was weird that he would say, be glad you've got your foot.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Honestly, what it reminds me of is when Biden broke his foot.
Ah.
And there was, it's so hard a lot of times to know it's even real anymore.
Yeah.
But there were pictures of his one foot in a cast, and then there were other pictures of his other foot in a cast, and then it's just the idea of limping, of being disabled to some extent to perform fully or to fully move into the purpose and destiny that you have. That's what a broken foot would represent.
Yeah.
And I think you can look at Biden, or a lot of people can look at Biden, and just the way that he does a press conference, you can make that assumption and say, I'm not sure that he's fully ready to step into the position that he's assigned to. Again, no judgment on the man. I'm not saying good, bad, or anything. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that feel that he's literally kind of limping through office right now.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And so I think what he's saying is at least you're fully prepared and you're fully able, literally saying you're fully able to walk into the destiny and the identity and the destiny that God has for you, which is this role as an advisor or a principal or a intercessor type of person in somebody of that level's life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks for sharing, Kelly.
Have a good day.
You too. Richard.
Can you hear me?
There we are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing?
Okay, good. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I started dreaming again. I've been praying for a certain ministry person, and it's interesting some of the things that have been spoken already, because I cannot say that I've ever had a dream where I was looking at people that were in like the Knights of the Round Table kind of setting. But I was looking down, so I was up on like a tower or something, and I was looking down, and I could see a lot of chaos, a lot of people talking and what have you. And as I was looking at them, I was wondering, well, what are they doing? And then suddenly I understood that they were going to make a selection. And so then I heard them say that I had been selected to kill the dragon. And my first thought was, I don't even remember ever running for that. and the other thing was, I guess normally I would have felt not completely confident, but at the time they said that, I was, as soon as they said that, I started to sharpen my sword, and then I woke up.
So it was like a setting like the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah.
And there was a group of men there, and all of a sudden you felt like they had voted you to go kill the dragon.
Right.
And you were like, I didn't even know I was up for this position. But as soon as you got the word, you started sharpening your sword.
Yeah.
That's a great dream. That's an awesome dream. I feel like you've been in a place, either you've been in a place or you're entering into a place of camaraderie, brotherhood, and community. That's what the round table represents. And you're going to have a place at the table. In fact, not only will you have a place, but you may have leadership at the table, leadership in the warrior sense. And they're going to ask you to do some things that you may not initially feel qualified or comfortable doing. And you say, like, well, I didn't even know I was in contention for this position, but you're going to take it on anyway. You're going to get ready. And the actionable intelligence is, I believe that what it's talking about is being, again, the theme of warriors and dread champions comes up, you know, in a lot in our community. But when you're looking at, you know, like the movies or something, when they send out a knight to fight a dragon, they typically send out one guy. You know, and it's the knight that goes to slay the dragon, right? Climb the tower, slay the dragon, rescue the princess, that kind of a thing. And so it's typically, they don't send out 12 guys, they send out one guy. And so it's really like the idea of choosing a dread champion to go up against a principality or a dark, very, very dark, destructive force. And so I feel like the dream is saying that that's what God is calling you to do. It's interesting because the theme of the 9-year-old had the dream about being with Thor. It was kind of similar, you know. And so, but yours starts in a place of brotherhood, of community, of unity. You've been elected for this position. Literally, make your calling and election sure is a verse that comes to mind. And you're like, well, you know, with a little hesitation, you're like, I didn't even realize it was possible for me to be considered in this position. You take it on. So it's not like you're fumbling around and don't know what to do. You know what to do. You grab your weapon, you begin to sharpen it. And I think what God is telling you is there's a requirement for further level of spiritual warfare that you're going to be instrumental in performing, particularly in a group or a community that you're involved in. And the thing that plagues that group or community is the very thing that you're going to face off and take down. And so sharpen your sword, which of course means get in the word and really understand, you know, places like Ephesians 6 and spiritual warfare, and, you know, begin to look at that in the Bible and begin to even memorize scripture and understand what your power and authority is as a Christian.
Yeah, I have that's definitely resonates with me, because that's something that I have more recently been, I guess, the tent pegs enlarged, because I feel that much more, not confident in myself, but confident in what God can do, regardless of how I feel and so forth. And my dreams lately have been where I'm no longer fighting from the ground, but fighting from the heavens.
Wow.
And so that's pretty amazing. I mean, I had a dream like 2 months ago, and I was fighting a blob, like the Thing from Fantastic Four, and he punched me in the face. And first thing I thought it was, nobody hits me in my face. And then when I woke up, I was on the floor. I fell on the floor. I rolled off a bed somehow, and I fell on the floor, and my lip was busted.
Physically, when you woke up?
I'm sorry?
Physically in the real world when you woke up?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
I mean,
you know,
it was, it ended up, I had to get a crown redone because it broke. And so it was just a really I mean, he hit me good,
Wow.
but and I couldn't figure out, well, how exactly did I roll over and hit myself on the nightstand when the nightstand is a little over a foot away from the bed,
Hmm.
you know? So it was really trippy, but after that, my intensity for praying got even more. No more news. I watch people like you and other people, and in between I pray. I'm sort of retired, so
Wow.
I figured, what else can I do?
Yeah, I feel like you're entering into a deeper level of identity and destiny in this time of your life, even more than you've walked in before. So I think it's great. God is clearly speaking about spiritual warfare.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your dream with us. Take care. All right, Christine Bacherman.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you?
Good. I'm good. How about you?
Great.
I didn't have a dream about crow's nest again. So
I still love that dream. That was awesome, especially since it's had a ship and I'm a Navy guy. So.
my son is too. So he's got 1 year left and then he retires. So this is kind of a weird dream, but I did kind of do a Joseph thing on it. So I'll give you a little bit of what I think too.
Yeah.
I was walking down the driveway and it was a long driveway and I got to the end of it and there was two black dark men with t-shirts and jeans on. They were standing and I felt really uncomfortable. So I turned around and walked back. Well, I had my retainer case in my hand and it had little bits of meat in it instead of my retainers. It's really weird. And they followed me up the driveway and I heard them talking between themselves. They said, "We're looking for lots of meat." And I knew I just had a little bit. And they came up and they grabbed my retainer case. They looked in it and they go, "No, that's not what we wanted." And they just left. That was the dream. It's very strange. And what I was thinking was I was somehow at the end of the driveway. I was going out of maybe God's protection and his umbrella protection. And then when I came back and they followed me, that I was maybe a little bit in my flesh, but they really wanted somebody a lot out of their flesh. The demons did. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't. So they had to leave me alone. And I had that authority.
So do you feel like the men represented demons, or do you feel like
they were thin and they were dark, dark men. They were black, possibly. I don't know, but they were black. They were thin, and then they had t-shirts and jeans. And I just felt something was wrong when I got to the end of the driveway, and I felt really uncomfortable, and I started walking back because I was going to leave. And so
was there anything that made them look not human?
No. They just looked like they really didn't look. I just got a bad feeling, and I turned around and walked away. And then they followed me, and they were looking for lots of meat. And I heard him say that. And so it was really weird. It was an odd dream.
Well, it's interesting. I have a friend and a business partner that looks a lot like you would describe. He's, I think he's Ghanaian initially. So he's really, really dark skinned black man. And typically has, have like short dreads and stuff like that. Very skinny. But absolutely brilliant, just a brilliant business guy, serial entrepreneur. I've invested in his companies. We've done multiple things together. But it's funny because a lot of times people who look at me or know me in a particular sense wouldn't necessarily think that I have a business partner that looks like that. Mm-hmm. And nothing against the way, I don't care how the guy looks. I know who the guy is. And to me, he's a very dear friend and somebody that I trust and somebody that I will honor and do strategy with his companies and spend time with. I think what it's saying is that, first of all, people in your life that may not look like you and may not look like people who society would think you would normally hang out with, okay, are going to come to you for meat. And I think the meat is obviously it's deeper level revelation, deeper level advisement, consulting. I think the fact that you're involved in spiritual intelligence and dream interpretation, and all of that, there's solutions that you're going to be able to provide that people of any place, anywhere, any nationality, any culture, any ethnicity on earth are going to be hungry for. And what you were doing is you were retaining a little bit, because it was in a retainer case.
Yeah, it was in my retainer.
You were retaining a little bit of meat, which to them was like a hot dog, and these guys were looking for steaks. And so initially, as you're walking to the end of your driveway, which means they're close by, they're literally at the end of your property line, you walk to the end of your driveway and there's these people. And initially you had a feeling that gave you pause, which may mean there's a spiritual thing where you're discerning in the spirit, okay, these people may not be like me, meaning they may not be Christians, they may not be saved, they may not whatever. So you're discerning something in the spirit. So you have a pause of like, well, I don't know if these are the kind of people I want to hang out with, if these aren't men that are saved and godly and, and all of that. But what happened is when you turned around, they pursued you, meaning they came onto your property, right? They came up to you, they walked up your driveway, and then they actually grabbed, because they were so desiring of what you were carrying, literally what you carry, that they grabbed it, and then they said, wow, the meat that you've retained is not enough. We need more. And they ended up kind of moving on because, again, they wanted the big bone-in porterhouse, and you had a piece of a hot dog. They were just like, well, you got some meat, but that's not what we're looking for.
Okay.
And I believe there's actionable intelligence in two aspects for it for you. One, the aspect is the people that God may call you to be with or to advise or to counsel may not look like, and I'm not talking look as far as physical look. There's physical look, but I'm also talking about spiritual look, because there was something in your discernment as a Christian woman that said, I don't know who these people are. And I don't think it was based on just the fact that they were very, very dark skinned and they had jeans and whatever. I think it was a level of discernment, and you're like, I'm not sure that they're like-minded people. And so realizing that God may call you to people like he did Daniel, to wicked kings like Nebuchadnezzar, to people that, are maybe involved in things that you may not agree with, that maybe, may not look like either physically or spiritually, like people that you initially feel called to. But also know that the people that you are called to, and even the people that hear about who you are, they obviously knew you had meat, because nobody would come up and grab a retainer case expecting to find meat. They were looking for meat. They grabbed your retainer case. So there's something about your reputation that extends beyond your home and your property line, that people are like, they're coming onto your property to pursue you. They're seeking you out. And, and I feel like the driveway almost becomes like a runway. Like a lot of times we'll walk down our driveway to get mail, right? Do you have a mailbox at the end of your driveway, or is that at your house?
No, it actually drops inside my house.
Okay. So a lot of people, when they go down the driveway, it's, whether it's doing something in your yard or whether, some people have the mailbox at the end, whatever. It's just the idea of, typically if you're going to leave your property, you don't do it on foot. You get in the car and you drive somewhere. If you're going to walk down the driveway, it's because you have a reason to be at the end of the driveway, or you live in a place that you could walk somewhere. But as you were approaching the end of the driveway, you saw these gentlemen. They gave you pause because of what you felt in your spirit, and you headed back, but they knew you had meat, but you didn't have enough meat for them. So I think realize that you may be called to people that it may not look like you think it would. They may not look like you. They may not look like you spiritually. They may not be saved. They may not be the typical people that you're hanging out with now. And that's the juxtaposition of white versus black. It's not a racial thing at all. It's just they may not be like you, and so it's just simply, God is not racist. He doesn't have a problem painting in a palette like he did with people and saying very, very dark-skinned black men that are skinny and at the edge of your driveway obviously is not what you are. So you're a woman, they're men, you're white, they're black, you have gray hair or blondish hair, or they may be a little younger, or whatever. So there's these multiple things that say that they're a little bit different than you are. But what they want is they want literally the revelation that you carry. So part of it is to say that God wants you to carry more, because he's going to send you to people, and people are actually going to pursue you that need more meat than the revelation that you carry around with you now. So I feel like it's an invitation to jump off the deep end on the revelation side, to really get the training and the stuff that you need. Dive into the word, dive into dreams, dive into spiritual intelligence, whatever the area God is leading you into, and be able to walk around with a cooler full of bone-in porterhouses. So in the event that somebody comes up and says, hey, I really need a solution and I don't want any fluff, like I need some meat here, you're like, well, do you want this or this? So that's a really good dream.
Yeah, and I'm a chaplain with a jail and prison, so I get that about having people look different than me, and and I have a house at risk, so it's like for at-risk women. So,
oh wow, that's
so
amazing.
So that's why this makes a lot of sense what you're saying, and so I have some growth, and thank you. That makes a lot of sense to me, a lot. But I couldn't quite. I tried to do the symbols, but I was like, I don't know, maybe it's flesh, maybe I'm in my flesh. I mean, that was what I was thinking. So anyway, well, thank you.
Well, and
so
the
much.
idea too of the meat in the retainer case is like it's what's left over from your mouth. It's like what you've chewed on, and what they want is more. So they want more than what you're chewing on, and so part of sharing carry is for you to be able to digest more, so you have more to give away. So again, I feel like God is just saying, go deep, really dive in, get the revelation, get the meaty stuff. And when you're with people, whether it's the women in the women's home or people in prison, don't be afraid to bring up dreams, and to be able to share with them and say, hey, have you had a dream lately? How can I help you? And begin to serve up those solutions and those heartfelt issues that they really have questions about.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Christine.
Thanks.
Bye. All right. Holly Schneider, are you with us? There you are.
Oh, yay. Okay. I wasn't sure how to get in. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Sounds great.
Awesome. John, thank you so much. I'm so blessed by you sharing your gift with everyone. And I've always been a dreamer, but just started writing down my dreams about 3 months ago or so. And I've started to notice a pattern of shopping in my dreams, and usually very specific items. But what popped up for me, a very short fragment the other day that stuck out to me, was a number that popped up. And in this dream, I was at a grocery store, and there were other people there. I didn't really recognize anyone, but when I got to the cash register, the cashier needed something from behind the register. And there's plexiglass in a lot of stores now because of COVID. There was plexiglass there, and I reached behind the plexiglass under the cash register and got something for her, but she didn't seem pleased that I invaded that space to help her. And then she told me that my total was $333.33. And I panicked a little bit, and I looked at my cart, and it wasn't just groceries. I saw a pair of pants kind of flung on there sloppily. It was stuff that didn't really make sense for grocery shopping. I can't remember everything on there, but I remember seeing pants going, that's weird. But I panicked thinking, my husband will not be happy that I'm spending this much money on a grocery trip. And that's all I can remember from that fragment. But the number really stuck out to me because it was all threes, 333 and 33 cents.
Awesome. What is that verse? Gosh. Is it Amos 3:33 or 33:3 or Isaiah? I can't believe I forgot this one, but I think it's calling to me, and I will show you great and mighty things that you do not know. Is that right? Does that resonate?
I don't know.
Somebody help me here. I don't know why, for some reason. It's a very, very famous Jeremiah 33:3. Thank you, Shalina. And if somebody could post what that says so we get it exactly. I felt immediately the reference to scripture. And I felt like it's, first of all, it's something that's happening in daily life, right? You go to the grocery store. It's not a particularly profound moment, but you're shopping, you're picking up things. Do you remember what you had in your cart or how much you had in your cart?
To me, I remember thinking in my head, it shouldn't be more than $200 worth of groceries, but the pair of pants stuck out to me. There was a pair of pants just kind of thrown onto the cart with all these groceries. I don't really remember the other groceries.
Okay. All right. Well, I think God is speaking to you about that number in particular, and I think this reference is a start, but I think you also need to look into 333, just in general. It's literally a trinity of trinities, as some people would say it. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's call to me and I will answer you, and I will tell you or show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Absolutely incredible. Again, it's learning things that you're not familiar with. I love what RC says here. Triple threes are learning what you do not know. Also, John 3:33. Somebody look up John 3:33 and tell me what that says, if you would. Yeah, Jeremiah 33, calling to me and I will answer you and show you great mighty things that you do not know. Mm-hmm. So again, this is the idea of spiritual intelligence. It's the idea of dreams, I believe. But it's also the idea of something that you may pay a price that may cost you more than you thought. Pants represent authority. Not like the sisterhood of the traveling pants, but more like, wearing the pants. Who wears the pants? There's always that kind of phrasing. And it represents authority, and in particular, positional authority. So not only were you buying food that was going to sustain you, there was a pair of pants that were thrown on top. Pants also represents, in a spiritual warfare perspective, if you think of, wow, just what I was going to say about truth. If you think of, in particular, Ephesians 6, right? You gird your loins with truth. That's so John 3:33, he who has received his testimony and has set his seal that God is true. Another version, YB brought up, thank you, Laurel. Whoever has accepted it has certified that God is truthful. So pants are authority, but authority based in truth, right? And the authority that you have, that you would carry, that literally that you would wear with you, because you're buying them to wear them later, right? Is something that may cost you more than you think. But also it's going to be more than you bargain for, because he's going to show you great and mighty things that you do not know. And great and mighty things aren't $200. They're a lot more. So even though it's $333.33, I think it's gonna be more than you bargain for. It's going to be something that you wear literally as part of your identity. It's going to be truth. It's going to be authority. And it's going to be something that is going to serve you well, but it's literally going to take you farther, and it's going to show you more than you thought. And so the actionable intelligence is pay the price. Now, what was the part of you reaching around the plexiglass?
I cannot remember what the cashier needed. She was having trouble getting to something underneath the cash register, and I reached around and grabbed it to hand it to her, and she was not happy with me kind of invading that space. And I kind of took it as just, with the post-COVID world of everything, we have to stay apart and can't get near each other. And I knew I wasn't masked in the dream.
Wow. Okay. So I feel like it's not even about the COVID thing. It's about literally you're going to have the ability to invade somebody's space, because you're going to be able, it's plexiglass. There's a shield there. There's literally a boundary there. You're going to be able to see past the boundary and to find literally what it is they're looking for, and to be able to reach in and to provide that for them. Some people may feel like they've been violated a little bit. But particularly, I feel like it represents the prophetic gift in your life.
Oh, interesting.
And that's part of the great and mighty things that he's going to show you. It's also part of the pants being a level of authority, and about girding your loins with truth. You're going to be able to see the truth. You're going to be, I know the word is so overused, but spiritually woke more than other people, because you're going to be able to see, So yeah, I think it's a good dream. It's about identity and destiny.
I want to point out, because you use the word woke, I work in higher education. And so I've been aware of the word woke for many years, and it's been kind of used as a weapon against me at times in my career. So I just find that interesting, and God is cool to do that.
You work like college university system, or?
Yes.
Awesome. What are you, a professor or?
Adjunct.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I work in tutoring and academic support.
Yeah. Yeah, I think God is going to give you some things to be able to share with people that may not necessarily be well received, but will certainly help them. That's kind of the feeling I got with the invading the space of the cashier. There's a barrier there, which is a false barrier. It can be like the barrier, like, well, you're not allowed to talk about God in the college system, which is a false barrier. It's not constitutional. It's BS. Everybody knows that. But you're going to be able to see what they need, reach in and provide that. But they're going to be like, you crossed the barrier. You're like, I provided what you needed. Like, stop your whining and take my money. So I think it's awesome. And I think part of it is, don't be afraid to reach around the barrier, because we don't need the barriers. The barriers are based on lies and deceit anyway. If we really get big picture about what's happening in the store in your dreams. So yeah, great dream, Holly. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. That helps me a bit. I've had some thoughts about where my career and where I'm at and how God can use me. So that gives me some clarity.
Yeah, that's awesome. And even the pants is what you're going to wear. So when you're questioning the wear, the pants solve that problem. Like truth and authority will solve the problem of where you need to be and what you need to wear when you're there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Let's go to, let me see here. Wow. We're getting more and more people. That's amazing. Cool. Let's go to Mark. Mark, if you're ready. And then I'm going to do Jennifer after that. Let me add you, Mark.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, how are you? Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I have two short dreams, but I want to say that I ran across you when you were on Janine Horick the other night.
Yeah.
And at the end, you prayed. And after that prayer, that evening, I had about 5 dreams.
Wow.
And ever since, I have had dreams over the years that are usually like warfare dreams or things like that, even, meeting with world leaders and things. But I've never had this many dreams every evening and being able to remember them. So last night I had a dream that I met with the Obamas, and I found that kind of unusual because I didn't vote for Barack Obama when he was in office. I did have dreams about him when he was in office, and I don't agree with the politics there. But the dream that I had last night, it was like I had peace and I had the joy of the Lord, and I felt love towards them. And I sat down to meet with Michelle Obama, and then Barack came over to me and leaned over and began praying with me. And I remember that his words were, he had words in the prayer that I distinctly remember. It was an actual prayer that was being prayed in the dream. But when I woke, I couldn't remember what the prayer was, but that was a very short dream. That was it. And the other dream.
Let's start with that one first. Where were you in the dream with the Obamas?
I don't remember what the location was. I was just, just with like sitting down with Michelle, and I don't know where it was.
So you're sitting with Michelle, and then Barack came up later?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a fascinating dream. I think it has to do a lot with like the dream that we just did a little bit before this, and it's the idea that you may be ministering to people that might look or think different than you. Particularly from a political standpoint, when a lot of conservative Christians, when they think of standing before kings, everybody wants to stand before Trump. Well, what if God calls you to give a prophetic word or a dream interpretation to the Obamas or to Biden or to, a communist dictator of another country? Would we do it? And I think a lot of times when we think of standing before kings, we kind of fantasize the idea of meeting our political heroes versus realizing that everybody in creation is a son and daughter of God, and God cares and wants to encounter them, wants them to have an encounter with him, wants them to have their dreams interpreted as much as he does the people that we like and we think like us and embody more of what we feel like we want the country to look like. So it's super interesting because Barack Obama has been coming up a lot in some of the things that we've been doing in spiritual intelligence. So I believe that there's still a purpose and a destiny for him. I do think he has some choices that he needs to make. Part of being an advisor, particularly a prophetic advisor, is the idea of trying to not have an opinion of what we think, where we feel like somebody is in their walk with God or in their relationship with him, or how we feel about their political views, or what we've heard that we can't necessarily verify on our own about them in the news, or whatever. So I think God is just telling you, get ready. He may call you to be in front of leaders that may not necessarily be the leaders you pick, may not even be the people that you would like, but they have a need to be heard, or they have a need to encounter God, and you may be the person that gives them the revelation on those encounters.
That's very interesting. I live in a community where everybody around me is opposite of me politically, so it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Can I share the other dream very quickly?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, this was the evening that I said that I watched you with Janine Horick. This is one dream out of that evening. I was in an army barracks. I'm in my mid-50s. I'm not in the military, so it's not like I would be going in the military. Okay. But in the dream, I was in an army barracks, and I was issued a pair of military boots. And there was different kinds of boots, and the sergeant said, wear the ones with the brass on them. So there was brass around the edges of the boot, like on certain parts of the boot. And so that's it.
So boots represent, in an Ephesians 6 standpoint, having your feet shod with the readiness of the gospel of peace. Now, it's interesting that you were on an army base, right?
Yes.
So it's the idea that it's a military type of ensemble, right? So I feel like God emphasized that, because if you went to the shoe store and you bought hiking boots, it wouldn't necessarily mean the same as being on an army base and having military boots. Because you're having military boots, it's a war fighting capability. Ephesians 6 definitely applies. In order to do warfare, you have to have your feet shod with the readiness of the gospel of peace. This is part of, it's not the same, but it's part of the other dream that you said, where God is basically saying, be ready. Be ready to be in places with different spirits, different people, different things that don't look like you do. Those people are literally going to sit down and want to converse with you because the revelation that you carry. But you also have to be ready to do warfare, because where you may be talking to people like the Obamas, there's going to be other things that are happening in the spirit realm that you're going to have to be dealing with at the same time you're having a conversation with human beings that want to encounter God.
Very interesting. Okay. That lines up with everything the Lord has been telling me lately with the armor of God. So
awesome. Well, I'm so glad you listened to Janine. We love her. She's amazing.
Absolutely.
Love her show. And thank you for coming on for Live Dreams.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Okay. So where did she go? Jennifer. Oh, hold on just a second here. I hit the wrong one. There you are.
I was like, that doesn't look like me.
Uh-oh. There you are. Nice blue shirt. You got the blue
Thank
shirt
you.
memo. Good
I
job.
do, yeah. Well, I posted this in the Dream Lab, but still really get much of a feedback, and I still feel like there's so many different odd ends and pieces to it that it just doesn't seem like to have a collective feel. But
Have you ever thought of just sending me a dream directly?
well, I mean, I could.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Jennifer lights me up on Facebook Messenger every day with it's awesome. And it's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay, but it's kind of a joke. Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, well, that's why I made a joke before saying that, I don't have short dreams. So
I know, right?
I don't. I really don't. This is actually a short dream. So
A short dream. Okay.
yeah,
So
it is.
like
It
an
is
hour long or 2 hours? What's the short?
like 5 minutes, maybe.
Oh, okay.
All right. So anyways, so the dream starts out where I'm with like a whole bunch of people who have their suitcases. They're ready to go. I have the feeling that we're all ready for Jesus to come back.
Mhm.
And we're getting ready to board a spaceship. Okay, I've been having a lot of spaceship and alien dreams lately.
Interesting.
And yeah, because that's really out of the blue for me. So we get in. Well, sorry, we don't get in yet. There's a lady who works for the spaceship. And there's a sidewalk in front of everybody. And she's informing us that once the light comes on, you know how the sidewalks have cracks in the sidewalk. Once the crack of the sidewalk lights up, go step on it, and then you'll get transported into the spaceship. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. But they wanted you to go 2 by 2, kind of like Noah's Ark. So once the light came on in front of me, in front of the sidewalk, I stood on it, and immediately I'm transported into a room inside the spaceship. Inside this room, it's fairly dark. You can barely see inside of it. And there are 3 other girls in there with me. They're all young adults. I'm in my 30s, and I actually teach young adults. So there's 3 of them. There's 4 of us total, and there's a round table in front of us. And so we're just sitting there kind of anticipating what we're supposed to do next. Like, is something big and miraculous going to happen? Or are we just going to sit here and wait for the ride? Like, we don't know what we're doing exactly, but just sitting there waiting. And as we're sitting there, I'm having a conversation with them. And one of the girls, I asked her what her name was, and she said her name was Bethany. I said, oh, that's, just making small talk. And another girl, luggage with her. And mind you, everybody had luggage with them. And she didn't have anything. And I said, well, why don't you have any luggage? And she said, I don't need any luggage to get into heaven. And I was kind of like, well, that's true. We don't really take anything with us. So, I just left that conversation alone. And all of a sudden, I felt the urge of something bad starting to happen. And I look to my left, and I see a window outside of the spaceship. And there's this massive, huge storm that is coming towards the spaceship. And the blackest of black clouds that are coming. And then all of a sudden I can see down the hallway, and there is a girl who is overweight in a very tight red dress. And she's skipping down the hallway happy. But I could tell that she was being escorted off the ship, like she didn't belong there. And I was like, well, why is she happy that she's being escorted off the ship? It didn't make sense to me. But that was all that I saw of her. And then I started feeling a rumbling of the ship, and I can tell that something wasn't good. And I said, we need to hold hands and start praying. And so we surround the table, and we start praying. And I was the only one that was speaking in tongues while we were praying. And I could sense that Jesus was beside me. I was just waiting for us, like the whole time we were in that room. I'm anticipating and waiting. When are you coming? Like, when are we getting to heaven? Like, that was the deal here. We're getting on the ship, and we're supposed to heaven. And it never ended up happening. All I felt was uneasiness towards the end of the dream, a lot of shaking happening, holding hands, praying, and I was speaking in tongues, and I sensed Jesus beside me. But that was it. I woke up exactly at 4:44. Like, my eyes opened up, and I saw 444. And actually, I don't know if I even spelled it right, but I have the post up beside me here so I wouldn't forget it. But I saw the word and heard the word. It sounded like Imani, at the end, and that was it.
Yeah, I think I saw this in the Dream Lab, and weren't
Yeah.
you breaking down what Imani meant?
I mean, someone had said that they thought that it was that they heard a different word. Let me bring it up real quick. Someone said that it meant something in Swahili, I believe. That's not coming up real quick. Hold on a second. Someone said in Swahili it meant faith, and then someone else said that for some reason they heard the word I'm not going to say it right. Imminent. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to say it. I can see it, and then, anyways, I can't say it. Yeah, I'm not even going to try. But anyways, and I questioned in my mind, is the word backwards? And I tried to flip it around, and it still didn't make sense. So that part doesn't make sense to me at all either still.
Mm. Well, there's a couple interesting things. The idea of being on a spaceship and having literally a lighted pathway that transports you to something that takes you higher, represents revelation, represents promotion, represents literally skyrocketing into a new realm. It could be the idea of being part of a community that is, a lot of times we think of the prophetic, like when we think of airplanes. This is above airplanes, though. This is literally literally going to a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I feel like it represents spiritual intelligence, just because, we've talked enough that I know a little bit about you and what God is showing you a lot in dreams right now. So I feel like that part of your life is about to explode. And as you press into that and you get surrounded with a praying community of people, you're going to be able to dispel the dark clouds and the confusion that comes around that world. But it's literally going to transport you to a different place. It's going to be like a different dimension. I feel like your spiritual life. And this is what we find, Mark, that was just on, they watched one video show of somebody else interviewing me or Anna talking about dreams, and their dream life explodes.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, imagine what it's like if you're walking with us on a day in, day out basis, practically doing real life spiritual intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, people are just like, they've made comments like, I just can't even believe what my life is like right now, just because God starts downloading so much information about so much stuff that we didn't know God wanted to talk to us about.
Right.
And it's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
One of the biggest assignments, and we're seeing a pattern even in this line of discussion today, is the idea that's one of the purposes of spiritual intelligence is spiritual warfare. Mm-hmm. And we are in a spiritual war for America right now. But it's not just America, it's global. Mm-hmm. Your dream speaks to the globalness of the conflict. Mm-hmm. One of the things that 4 can mean, and I feel like it means this in your case in particular, is the 4 corners of the earth.
Mm-hmm. And there's 4 of us in the room.
And there were 4 of you in the room.
Besides Jesus at times when he felt him there.
Right. And you woke up at 4:44. Mm-hmm. And there may be a scriptural reference with that, though I don't know what it is in particular. I feel like it might be in Genesis. So Genesis 4:44 or 44:4. I don't even know if those verses exist. But I feel like there's something, because I feel like you're beginning to go to a whole new level, and it's going to be exciting. And it's going to be literally stratospheric for you. It's not even going to be on a different plane, like a higher, I'm at the airport getting on a plane. Well, that's like that's a level of promotion, but it's a level of promotion you're familiar with.
Right.
You're getting on a spaceship, like we've never been on a spaceship.
Right.
We don't have any idea where we're going, what to expect, what the ride's going to be like. And so I feel like God is like, buckle up and pray and know that there may be some things like the dark clouds that you're going to have to contend with, and the rumblings and the shakings. You don't have any idea what's normal. We know it's normal when we take off on a plane because we've all ridden on planes, but we don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of anticipation there of not knowing how it was going to happen, or like we knew that the destination at the end, obviously we were going to get to heaven, but as far as while we were in that room, how are we going to get there? What was it going to feel like? You know, what were we going to endure? What were we going to see? Like all those questions were going through my mind while we were in that room.
Yeah, and it's not even just about like getting to heaven in the end of your life sense. It's about getting to heaven to get revelation now in a very practical, while you're still on the earthly plane, right? While you still live, you know, the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. There's so much more that he wants to bring to you. And part of that is going to this complete other dimension that you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
And of course, why wouldn't God show you that in a dream, especially if it's related to your dream and your prophetic life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. Again, it is interesting because, you know, when I had this one, I was like, oh, great, another spaceship or alien type dream, you know, and I just had one not long ago. And I was like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me with these aliens, but yeah.
That's really exciting. You know, there's a lot coming out about the release of, I don't know how deep I want to get into this, but I'll ask a question. Consider the idea that aliens actually do exist. Just consider that for a moment.
Okay.
Consider the fact that that doesn't surprise God at all.
Right.
Consider the fact that he wants to share secrets like that with his friends.
Mm-hmm.
If God wanted to wake us up to something that was completely beyond the realm of our own possibility, how would he begin to have a discussion like that with us? Are we going to watch a documentary movie? Are we going to meet a friend that is part of a secret space program? Or would he begin to give us dreams about things that had to do with something way beyond the realm of our own experience?
Yeah.
I feel like including the name that you heard, or I feel like it's a name, the thing that you heard, the word that you heard waking up. I feel like there's a lot more digging to do in the stream.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a very kind of broad perspective because that's all we have time for. But I would press into it and do some more research and find out what that means in particular, and you know, just go down the rabbit hole with God.
Yeah, I kind of felt like maybe it was a whole other language.
Could be.
So, but I don't know. I'll just have to more homework.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being on our show and for sharing it with us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Somebody said, hey, do some of the dreams in the feed, in the comment feed. So here's one. Marcia Phillips, I had a dream. I was just waking up and the Lord gave me 2 words, dark union. Not sure what it means, but there is a book called Dark Union, and it's about Lincoln. Buy the book, read it, get back to me and let me know what you think. I might actually buy the book too, because as you know, there's been multiple dreams about Lincoln that have come across my desk to the point that I've researched it extensively. I spent probably 70 or 80 hours reading books or watching documentaries on the life of Lincoln. So I have a lot vested in the Lincoln thing. I haven't heard of or read the book Dark Union. I feel like it applies to what's going on in America today. That's the prophetic sense I get. Again, I've never heard of this book. I don't have any idea what it means. When this kind of stuff happens to you and you wake up and you look it up and you find it's a book, it's an invitation from God to be able to take you down the rabbit hole into some things that he's going to show you that could be absolutely mind-blowing. And if it's talking about Lincoln, I'm guarantee you that what he wants to show you has to do with what's going on in America, what's going on the national level. So I would take that on board, and yeah, I would pursue it, Marcia. Thanks for sharing. That's a great dream. All right, let me see if I can find 1 or 2 others. My computer's acting super slow for some reason, like when I go to transition. All right, I'm just looking through real quick. Give me just a second here. Okay, well, let's do, I don't know how to say your name. I think it's Surwa. Is that right? I'm going to add you to the stream. Let's take your dream.
Hi, John.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? You actually said it perfectly. Thank you.
Surwa. Awesome. That's great. I like that name. That's cool.
Thank
what does
you.
it mean? Do you know?
Yes, it means morning breeze.
Oh, that's cool.
It's Kurdish from Iran.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for being on our show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited. So, this dream, it's not very long. I had basically in the dream, I was like hired or wanted to start working at the shoe store. However, the shoe store, I was spying. I was there as a spy because there was some shady stuff happening there, but nobody knew. And I guess I knew, and I don't know who else knew, but I was sent there to accomplish this mission, whatever that was. So I'm looking around, and as soon as I noticed nobody was paying attention, there was a set of stairs going downstairs, and there was a room on my left side. And I was being very careful because there were some men who were having a very serious meeting there. And they seemed like they were basically terrorists, and they had guns with them. And it was a scary situation. So I was being extremely careful of how I was going to go down there. And I had a toolbox. And there was a Muslim girl who was actually helping me. She was wearing a hijab. She was related to one of the guys. There was an uncle. And she was like on my side. She was helping me. She was a really nice lady. And as I was carefully walking downstairs, she was behind me. And as I was walking down, I noticed a wall in front of me, and I had to go to this wall. Now, there was literally nothing on this wall. It's just a wall. And I'm noticing the door on my left, it's open, and I see all the men, and they're just talking. They're having these really, those weapons. I don't know what you call these guns, but they were around their necks. They're long. And so I went down, I took my tools. As soon as I noticed that the wall, I shouldn't say there was nothing on there. There was holes in there. And I had to, let me just look at these. The key that I had, it was really interesting. You know, those really old keys? Like the 1920s or whatever. They had can you see my hand? I don't think I can show you my hand here, but they were like, it's like round and has almost like a needle at the bottom. And it was quite big. And so, and it was like a bronzish color, like a really old kind. And I had to put it like, there was 4 or 5 holes right at the top. And I had to go all the way to the top one, put that key in there, and I had to turn it to the right. I had to keep going. And I was nervous when I was doing this because I know I was in a territory where I'm not supposed to be there. And as I was doing that, and I was twisting and twisting, all of a sudden I stopped because I felt like, oh my gosh, because there was sparkles coming out and that was making noises. And I got a little nervous. I'm like, maybe I should. So I hesitated. I was like, maybe I should stop. But a voice in my head said, no, keep going. Don't get scared. So I kept going as fast as possible. And then all of a sudden I heard and the sparks kept going, and it was literally sparking. Like I could even see it. And so then as soon as I heard this machine that was behind the wall turn on, I knew my mission was done, that was the mission. I had to just turn some machine behind this wall on. And as soon as I heard this going on, I then stopped. I put my tools away, and I looked around to see if there was, anybody watching. I kept on looking behind my back. And the girl, she was like I don't know at what point she came in. I think it was just before I started, just to kind of help me out. She said, should I close the door? And I said, yes, close it. So she closed the door. And when she did that, I think that's when I started actually doing all of this. When I stopped, I went up the stairs, and her uncle came upstairs with this gun around his neck, or I should say around his, this chest area. And he was like really mad at her. And he says, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be, you should not have been doing that. And she was, because he was her uncle, she was extremely, she knew how to speak to him, basically. So she calmed him down, and she was like smiling, pretending that, oh, I didn't know what to do, kind of like, playing dumb, but she knew what she was doing. She was being really clever. And I was just, happy about the whole situation. And I just went up. I was nervous. That was a dream.
Wow. So when you came up to this wall, the men were in a doorway on the right of you?
On my left. And it was deeper. It was almost like, yes. And it was like a room, but it was like deep in the room. It wasn't like you can open the door, see them like in front of you. It was more like deeper in the room.
Okay. And this wall was inside?
Yes.
And it had holes in it?
Yes.
And it was just like a big wall, and they were off to the left side, and then you were looking for a door to get through. Is that what was happening at the beginning?
No, I knew there was no door.
Okay.
I guess the whole mission was just to go to this wall. The wall was important. And this tool that I had, I opened my toolbox, and, well, not a box, it was like a little bag. And I just took this key. It was that specific key that needed to be going in there. And I just had to, keep turning it until, it was kind of interesting, because I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I just was following whatever's in my head to do what I'm supposed to be doing.
So, and when you kept turning it, then it was sparking, and then what happened?
And also it made sounds as well, like sparkling sounds. And I was afraid that they were going to hear it and then come up.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't. I guess they were talking, and it wasn't loud enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a bit nervous about that they could possibly hear me. So that's why I hesitated, and I stopped. I'm like, oh my gosh, these sparkles are making too much noise. And they were sparkling out like little fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when a machine behind this wall started to run. Like I could hear this. It was like a machine. I can't see nothing. So I don't know what it.
Mm-hmm. So you never figured out what was behind the wall?
No.
Mm-hmm. Wow. When you first said this big wall and there wasn't a door, before you said it had holes in it, what I heard was the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. So the Wailing Wall has, obviously, it's just all these stones, and I've never been there, but I wish Anna was here, because she's been there. But they have little cracks and crevices that people will write notes or prayers, and they'll stick them in there, and then they'll stay there and pray. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that in this location, even though it wasn't outside, it was actually inside in your dream. There was something in your mission that needed to be activated on the other side of this wall. So you had the key, and the key was like a skeleton key with like a needle on the end, right?
Yes.
And it had to be put in the right hole, but the right hole was up really high. Like you had to find like the highest hole that you could get, and then you turned it, and then the sparks started flying out, the noise started making, and then you were afraid that the terrorists or whoever the people were in the other room that seemed like bad men with the big guns were going to come after you. And what happens? Oh yeah, they were in a meeting, but there was a girl in a hijab that was following you, right?
Yeah, she was there because I didn't have any conversation with her before that. She just knew I was there, and she was there to help me. And she had my back, just in case, kind of like a lookout. Do you want me to close the door? Yes, close the door, because I got to do this. And she was just, so I could focus on what I was doing. She was behind me looking to make sure these guys are not going to come up or hear me. She would warn me of anything. But it worked, because when she closed the door, which is interesting, because when you close the door, then they cannot hear you. Mm-hmm. I just realized this.
Wow, that's awesome. And then didn't some guy come in, but it was her uncle?
Yes.
And then she was just kind of giving him the song and dance. Oh, what are we doing? We didn't know what we were doing, and blah, blah,
exactly.
blah. And so what happened then?
Nothing. I just left. And that's when the dream ended. I just went back to work.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like there's an assignment. I feel like there was an assignment related to Israel for you.
Interesting.
The Wailing Wall obviously represents prayers. It represents putting kind of a stake in the ground. There's people that, I had a friend that was at the Wailing Wall, and she wrote a prayer for me and wadded it up and put it in the Wailing Wall. And it was kind of like you have a stake in the ground in Israel. And that's the message that she sent to me, which I thought was really profound. I didn't ask her to do that, but I was grateful that she did. And so I think that there is a mission that may not be, there's literally something, there's a key that sparks something that causes a machine, or the machine of whatever is happening behind this wall. It's literally there's a hidden effect. And I believe that hidden effect is in the spirit. And I feel like God has a purpose for you specifically related to prayer and related to Israel. And it might even be something in a practical way that I'm not saying this definitively, but it might be something in a practical way that you need to go there. But I feel like there's a key that you have, and I feel like part of the reason that you have this key is because of your identity. You know, I don't know anything about you, but I feel like it's related to something in your generational bloodline. I feel like you're the key, is what I feel like. You're the key.
That is so interesting, because I just recently had another dream. I won't go into it, but it had to do again with that. And I had to go and get something, and I had to do with Golan Heights. Like my documents were in Golan Heights, and this girl had to go get it. That's another long dream, but so I find that maybe that relates to one another. That's really, really, really interesting.
It could be. Do you have any connection to Israel, or?
Not that I know of. No, I don't know anybody there.
Where do you live currently?
I'm in Canada.
Canada. Okay.
I'm a citizen here, but I had some other stuff that Lord had actually shown me about California. So I went there for a few months, but nothing happened. So I'm not, and I know I'm supposed to go back there as well, but I don't know for what. So I'm not sure.
So your family is from Iran?
Yes, we're Kurdish from Iran.
Kurdish from Iran. Did you live there, or was it your parents that immigrated, or?
No, I lived there, and we left shortly after the Iran and Iraq war ended. We didn't know how, I was so young, but we didn't know. My parents just wanted to leave just in case of anything else happening. They just wanted to leave. So we came, we came here.
Wow. And are you a Christian?
Yes, I just came to Jesus about maybe a little less than 6 years ago. And my mother just came to Jesus last year in October.
Wow. That's amazing.
So cool. My sister and my brother are also Christians, so that's all exciting.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, very, yes.
Yeah, I feel like, there's a lot of rumblings literally behind the scenes, saber rattling, as they call it, what's going on in Israel right now, what's happening in the Middle East. I spent a lot of time in the Middle East when I was in the military. It's a place that's very dear to my heart. Love the food, love the people. It's a great place to be. It's obviously, a lot of people view it as a dangerous place. I understand that. There's a lot of conflict that's generations and thousands of years old. But it's interesting with what's happening, particularly related to, and I'm not going to go off on the tangent of end time prophecy, but I just feel like there's something related to you and your heritage that's a key to something that has to do with Israel and Jerusalem in particular. And I feel like what seems like a small action, which is going to a place with a Muslim girl that's with you, that kind of has your back, and taking this key, which is really the only thing you're carrying. You have this small bag, and it doesn't seem like much, and you're like, oh, I got this key, and you find the highest place to stick it, and you put it in there, and you don't even know what it does, but you just know, you have this knowingness, this is what I need to do, this is what needs to be done, this is my mission. And as you begin to turn it, it literally sparks something. I hear the words spark a revolution. I don't know exactly what that means, but the actions that you're taking on the outside of this wall have repercussions beyond the wall. And there are nefarious people that want some things to happen, and they may be even revolutionaries, or terrorists, or whatever. They're people with, AK-47s, and they got the big guns, and they got the ammo, and they're obviously up to something in a warfare capacity, and they're in the same area. But what you're doing is really going to accomplish more in the spirit, which is the unseen realm, literally behind the veil, something behind the wall that you can't see, but it's going to start this machinery, and it's going to put the stuff in place that is literally going to lead to, I believe, what's going to be like a revolution. And I'm not saying of a particular country or anything. I'm just saying it's going to start a machinery that is going to have repercussions, I think, in the whole of the Middle East, beyond just the country of Israel, beyond just, the places that your family is from and all of that. But I believe it's a piece that's related to your destiny. I think it's interesting the time frame that you left. I think it's interesting. I feel like a lot of times we get actionable intelligence that's like, go here and do this. This is not one of those dreams. this is a dream that is kind of like a foreshadowing of your identity and your destiny. It's like when Gideon was first called by God, the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "O valiant warrior." And he's like, "Who are you talking to? I'm the least of my family, and my family's the least of our tribe, and our tribe's the least. Like I'm nothing, dude. I got nothing for you. Like, you know, I'm so insignificant. You don't even know." And he's like, "No, this is who you are." And it's just beginning to tell him you have a piece and an identity and a destiny that you're going to discover more later. And as he finally accepted it, and he tested God with the fleece and then without the fleece and all the stuff, and, you know, let me bring you a sacrifice so I know you're real. And he comes, and then God takes or the angel of the Lord takes the staff, strikes the food that he had made, and it goes up in a puff of smoke. Literally, it sparked something. And that's what I feel like this dream is that point in your life that it was in Gideon's life, is where God is saying, "Oh, valiant warrior." He's saying that you have a piece to play in the international arena, behind the scenes, related to, there are things that you're going to do, there's actions that you're going to take, no matter how insignificant you may feel or how many times you may say, "Well, who am I?" And what, like, don't even ask those questions. God made you as a key, and you're the key. And when you find that place that the insertion needs to happen, God is going to insert you into a particular place, and you're literally going to be turned, and sparks are going to happen, and there's going to be something in the unseen realm that's going to pop off, and it's going to be a destiny moment for you, but it's going to trigger things that's going to be, you know, again, it's going to be like a revolution. And I don't mean a revolution in the war sense. I mean a revolution in something completely unheard of, unseen. Nobody could ever know that this was going to happen. It reminds me of the verse in scripture that says, you will see something in your day that even if I told you, you would not believe. And so I feel like God I would say go look at the story of Gideon. If you've seen our Through the Bible Study series, they're all on YouTube. They're free. They're on this channel, Dream Life Decoded. They're on Anna Kate's channel, my partner as well. She's from Russia. So it's the idea that God literally called you out of the place after a war, brought you to where you are now. But there's still a destiny and a purpose that's tied back there. And it probably has to do with a bloodline and a generational heritage, which I would say, if you don't know what your bloodline is, you may even want to begin to research, and the significance that your past ancestors have played in the Middle East, particularly in the regions of, you know, Turkey, Iran, and Israel.
Okay, we'll do that.
Very powerful.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. I never, the way every time you were talking and continue talking, I kept remembering like more dreams about Israel, and a rabbi who's telling me about Moses's law.
Wow.
As well, he told me that in order to move forward, we need to take some law of Moses and bring it into law, or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just so many of them like that. It's pretty cool. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you for doing this. This is such a blessing to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for being on the show, and we'd love to have you back again sometime.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Wow. Okay. I love it when God has a plan and stuff happens. Be House of God. I'm going to bring you on. I brought you on before accidentally. I'm going to bring you on now intentionally.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome.
My dream is 30 years ago, and I did send it to you on Facebook.
Okay.
So I thought I'm going to tell you the dream. My nephew Isaiah fell into a huge container of salad dressing. I pulled him out and cleaned him up. That's the dream. So then, you know, I've been doing the class on the 21 dreams, and so I was kind of pulling this apart. I was on my second short-term trip, which is 2 weeks, to Trinidad. When I had the dream, my nephew at that time was 2 years old, and he is my sister's second child. I've always assumed the dream was about praying for him, which we have been doing, and am now wondering if the Lord has more to impart to me. So currently, this nephew is a prodigal in a foreign country. It's the second country he's been in almost 8 years.
What country?
He's in China.
Okay.
He's teaching English as a second language. And we believe that God has sent him there. He probably thinks that he chose himself. And he knows he was brought up in a Christian home. But the interesting thing is, I'll just tell you this part and then we can go back and talk more about Isaiah. But over the past year, since 2020, I've been assisting the main Bible teacher in a ladies' Bible study. I'm the second teacher. We are studying the book of Isaiah. She teaches for 2 weeks. I teach 1 week. So I've taught for a total of 10 times. So then my further thoughts, of course, the name Isaiah means Isaiah saves. He's a major prophet to Israel in the Old Testament. Salad dressing is something we add to a salad for extra flavoring. Pulling him out could refer to spiritual warfare. Cleaning him up could refer to the washing of the word. So those are just my further thoughts about the dream.
I love it. I love what you're thinking. I have a question. What kind of salad dressing?
I don't remember. I just put salad dressing. My favorite is ranch.
I felt ranch.
So, yeah.
So it was white. It was milky white like ranch dressing would be. It wasn't it wasn't a vinaigrette. It wasn't red. It wasn't Italian. It was ranch.
Well, that I don't remember, but since that's my favorite, that would probably be what was in the dream.
So when he came out, was he covered in like white, sticky salad dressing goo?
All I remember is I pulled him out and I cleaned him up. He's 2 years old, so I could easily, and I don't know how big the container was, but it was a huge container.
He's 2 years old?
At that time.
Oh, in the dream.
In the dream, at the time of my
30 years ago. Gotcha.
Yeah. 30 years ago, he was 2 years old.
Wow. That's interesting. And you said he was raised as a Christian? I think you froze. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Shoot, I think we lost you. Well, if you can hear me, come back and I'll leave you in the studio and hopefully we can come back and finish that dream. That sounded like a fascinating dream. Nancy, how you doing?
I'm fine.
You were unmuted, now you're muted.
Gotcha. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you for letting me share my dream.
Absolutely.
So I called it the bird profile dream. I saw bird heads displayed in front of my face. It was about 4 or 5 bird heads. They all had white, smooth heads, nicely shaped beaks, and dark eyes. Their eyes were different shapes, round, oval, half moon shaped. I only saw the side view of the bird heads as they passed by me. But one bird head had a rather large beak. It looked dented in, sinister looking, and the head turned towards me. I saw both eyes, and then they glowed red, and beams came out of them. I think I saw one more bird after that, but it was like the others. White, smooth head, nicely shaped beak, and dark eyes. And that's my dream.
So you just saw the bird heads. Were they like mounted somewhere? Were they attached to birds, or were they live birds? Or
no, it was just the heads, and they were kind of floating across in front of my face.
in your field of vision? Do you know what kind of birds they were?
They just had white, smooth heads and a nicely shaped beak. The beaks were all the same, rounded with a pointy tip on at the end.
They look like a bald eagle, maybe?
I kind of maybe could say yes, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I didn't see feathers. It was smooth, a white, smooth head. I think an eagle has, larger feathers that you could see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking up, seeing if I can insert this picture. Let me just share my screen real quick. If I can do that. Oh, no, I can't do that here. Okay. Yeah, I wondered if they were eagles because that's kind of the first thing I thought of. And when you think of like a white head and, they have the white thing even down to their neck, and they're passing before your eyes. And one of the things that you noticed in particular about them was the eyes. They had dark eyes. Somebody said doves. The doves are white also. It was the idea that they had dark eyes, and then the one had like red eyes. Was it like laser beams shooting out of the eyes, or just their eyes turned red?
Their eyes they glowed red, and then beams came out of them.
Beings or beams?
Beams, B-E-A-M-S, red beams.
Red beams. Okay. How many, was this just one bird, or was this all of the birds?
The one that looked sinister?
Yeah, with the red eyes.
Just one.
Just one. And it was close to the end?
Yeah. He wasn't the very end. Well, I said he, but the bird wasn't at the very end. There was another bird behind him, but that was normal looking.
Wow. Was it a big bird or a small bird? Did it look more like a dove or like an eagle?
Well, they were pretty close to my face, so I would say to me, an eagle is a very large bird, and it wasn't that large of a bird, but it wasn't real small either. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. A lot of times birds represent the prophetic because they represent the ability to see higher. Also, birds, you think of falcons, you think of hawks. In particular, you think of eagles that have such a great eyesight. Obviously, part of the focus of the dream is the eyes because you're not really seeing anything else of the bird except the head. And of course, the thing that you see most of in your description that you talk about is the eyes, how they were dark. And then in this one, they became red, and then there were beams coming out of them. So it's really interesting. I feel like this dream is an invitation. I feel like God wants to, he wants to show you some things, and he wants to show you things at a different level. The birds don't represent you, but they represent other beings or other things that can also see far. And I feel like God is he's going to show the head, because you're seeing the head, it represents authority, like the head of an organization or the head of a prophetic community or something like this. Did you get the feeling that they were bad or good, or not, or no feeling at all?
The one with the deadened beak, he to me was sinister. All the rest were good.
Okay. So I feel like, God is going to give you discernment that allows you to see the heads of literally different organizations, whether bad or good. And you're going to be able to discern and be able to see nefarious intent, or you're going to be able to judge who they are. This is good, this is bad. And it's going to be crystal clear to you, almost as clear as their eyes changing color and beams shooting out of them. I feel like what he's saying is he's giving you a different level of prophetic discernment. Again, birds a lot of time in a general sense, in this sense, in your dream, they represent the prophetic, the ability to see higher, to see farther. If excuse me, if you felt like most of them were good, I feel like those can represent a good intent, a good background, a good use of the prophetic. But if they all look the same, except for the eyes, the one with the dark eyes that turned red can represent something that's false. You think of when we were in school, when we would get something wrong on a test, they would circle it in a red pen or a red marker. It means this is wrong. This is something false, right? And so the red beams literally shooting out of their eyes, I feel like God is giving you it's like 6 birds, and you're able to see immediately which one isn't true. And so part of this is just representing, it's representing prophetic discernment at a deeper level.
Did I mention that he turned his head towards me, and that's when he shot and
He
I
turned his
saw
head
both
towards you
eyes,
and he looked at you.
and he saw both eyes. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but
You did say that, but it was only that one bird that did that, right?
yes.
So part of it is you can see them, but they can see you too. Like you're going to be in situations where you're going to be able to identify and point out the nefarious ones, and they're going to know and have a spiritual sense, even if it's a dark spiritual sense, that who you are, and they're going to be afraid of you because you're going to be able to see right through them. So I think that's just something for you to be aware of, not to be afraid of, but I think that God is going to take you to a different level of discernment, particularly in identifying what's real and true. And I believe this has to do with real prophets and false prophets. You're going to be able to see the ones that are false and nefarious, and they're going to be afraid that they're going to be exposed because they're going to know that you know who they are. And so it's a discernment related to the prophetic, and it's a discernment related to people in particular.
Oh, that's cool, because I felt like I'm exactly agreeing with you, because I felt like he wasn't hurting me. He wasn't going to hurt me no matter what he was shooting at me.
Yeah.
And then I can continue on and see the other, I saw the other bird. So yay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good dream. Thanks for sharing it with us.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, we're going to go back to, where did you go? Here you are. Hey, salad dressing.
Yes.
All right, cool. By the way, guys, we're not going to be able to get to all of the dreams. We're at 2 hours, and we still got about 10 or 12 people in the waiting room. So unfortunately, I won't be able to get to all of you today, but we're going to do this again. We're going to try to do this weekly. My apologies, but we're going to do a couple more here. So the salad dressing, the fact that he was fully immersed in the salad dressing, right?
Yeah, he fell into the container.
Okay, so the base of a salad dressing is oil. Oil represents like anointing oil.
Okay.
The fact that you like ranch and I like ranch, and the first thing that I heard was ranch when you said salad dressing. It's kind of a play on words.
Yeah.
It's also like the idea that he's going to be like a cowboy spiritually. And again, the fact that he's already in foreign countries and teaching things and doing things, he's kind of a ranger. He's kind of out doing, I think of in Lord of the Rings, how they call the one guy who was the king, really, they called him the ranger. And there's that verse when he was given by the elf king, he was given a sword, and he said, it's time to put away the ranger and be who you were born to be. And I feel like there's a moment that is going to be, what's your nephew's name?
Isaiah.
Isaiah, that's right. You said that. I feel like there's a moment in Isaiah's life coming very soon where he's going to be who he was born to be, what he was called to be. And I feel like part of his purpose and destiny is related to a kingly or a rulership authority that he has. because again, when they would take the horn, you think of Samuel anointing David, they would literally take a horn of oil and they would pour it on your head. I mean, you were literally just completely doused in oil. So it's probably the same as taking a 2-year-old and dipping him in a vat of oil and pulling him out.
Right.
So the milky substance, I feel like it's a kickback to the idea of the land of milk and honey, the promised land. So I feel like part of his promised land. And I feel like the place that he's going to really get traction in his life, because I feel like right now he's seeking. Yeah. And that's why he's in China. He's like, well, I'm going to go on an adventure. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do this. I don't feel like he's settled. I don't feel like he's settled spiritually. When he gets settled and when he gets in the place spiritually, and again, you think of David and you think of, and David was, by the way, a rancher, right? David was a shepherd.
Yeah.
You know, he took care of the flocks. So that's what he was. And when he finally got settled into what his purpose and identity was when he was king. The rest of the time he was kind of floating, he was traveling, he had his men with him, they were raiders, they were rangers, they did this kind of stuff, and then he came into his own, and when he was king, and we know him as King David, it was that part of his life, when he hit that traction in that part of his life, that's what his destiny was, and that's what he's known for. We don't call him David the shepherd, we call him David the king. And so I feel the same thing is going to happen to Isaiah, and thank God that you're in his life and you're continuing to pray for him, because what's happening, and I believe that just prophetically, I don't know that you said this, but I believe that you pray for him on an ongoing basis. Like you have a burden in your heart for him, even though he's not your son, he's your nephew. And I feel like part of that is praying him into the place of destiny and identity. And so why wouldn't God begin to tell you the identity and the destiny of this person that's on your heart to pray for?
Yeah. Okay.
So awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that with us. That's amazing.
I know it. Thank you.
All right.
Have a
good one.
You too.
Bye-bye. Stephanie Long. All right, here we go.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
I had a dream about 3 weeks ago, and it started out pretty upbeat. I think I was going from one dream to another one, but when I made that shift, there was a tent, kind of like you would set out maybe at the beach to shade yourself, or, you know, an outdoor event. So everybody was really upbeat. And we went to move to kind of sit underneath the tent, and immediately the tent changed to my mom and dad's master bathroom when I was growing up. And I was in the bathroom, my mom and dad were in the bathroom, and the ceiling, interesting, we have our 8-foot ceiling. In this particular corner of the room, the ceiling stopped a little bit short. And within seconds of my dream starting, I looked up and I saw a bright yellow and white snake come out of the top of the ceiling, and came down the side of the wall into the bathroom. I immediately was thinking about my bedroom growing up, and I said, I'm going to run around to the front of the house and I'm going to shut my bedroom door. And I was able to escape the bathroom, but in real life, there's no exit out of that bathroom. So in the time that it took me to run around to the front of the house and come into the front door, I went into my bedroom and things were turned over in every direction. And I really kind of knew what had happened, because my dad is somebody who will take care of things. And I knew that's probably what had happened. So my room was disheveled, and I turned. My bedroom door was at the end of the hallway. The master bedroom door was always growing up right there next to it. So I went into the master bedroom and I looked, and I saw my dad sitting in a bedroom chair, and he was exhausted, and his arms were draped over each side of the chair. And I could see that he had been wrestling with the snake because there was some slime and stuff on him. And I just assumed he had taken care of the snake, because that's just typically what my dad does. He just takes care of things. And I said, did you get it? And he said, and he was really tired, and he said, no, it's still behind the door. And I then said, is it poisonous? And he said, no, it's not a poisonous snake. So of course I'm trying to get away from the snake, and I go back into the master bathroom, And my mom is in there, and I'm trying to kind of get away from the snake. And I look, and the yellow and white snake is now making its way back into the master bathroom. And where I could escape before, the wall's there now, the snake can't escape. And the snake is not necessarily coming at me, but coming in my direction to the other end of the bathroom where the shower is. And I can tell that the snake can't get out. So as it can't get out and it starts to come back in my direction, and the counter is a double vanity. I was at one end of the double vanity and my mom was at the other. And my mom in her left hand is blow drying her hair like nothing's going on. And as it gets close to her, she immediately reaches with her left hand and grabs the head of the snake right below its head on its neck and shoves it down towards her sink, and a really big black snake's head comes up, and the black head snake grabs the yellow and white and grabs it, and then I wake up.
So the black snake was in her sink?
Yes.
This is an interesting dream.
Yeah, it was. I mean, typically I know kind of what snake dreams mean, but just how that played out at the end was very interesting to me.
So this is your childhood home?
Yes.
So this is a bloodline dream.
Okay.
It's about something that your dad fought with, that your mom defeated, and that you're seeing a house in disarray because of the effects of fighting with this thing.
Okay.
You don't have to tell me what it is, but I feel like there's something that your dad has battled for years that your mom doesn't battle with.
Okay.
It could be a vice. It could be, I'm not saying this for you, but a lot of families have alcoholism, or they have something that, affects the men a lot of times more than the women. But I feel like there was something that wasn't poisonous and wasn't detrimental. White and yellow snakes tend to not be poisonous. There's a few that can be. The eastern garter snake is a white and yellow snake, but they're typically not that big. There's the albino granite Burmese python, which could be.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be really large. I feel it's not poisonous, but it's definitely not something that you would want to fight with. I wouldn't want to fight with it anyway. I really don't like to wrestle snakes. It's not a hobby of mine. But I also feel like a lot of times, not always, but I feel like in this case, the snake can represent a lie. Obviously, the serpent, did God really say, not only just a lie, but a doubt that's placed in somebody's mind that then they begin to struggle with. And that struggle literally causes havoc in their home. So I feel like, it's something that your dad struggled with. It might even be faith that your mom didn't struggle with, and your mom just knew how to deal with the snake. And for your mom, it was literally about as hard as getting her hair done. She just knew, she knew how to handle it. What's almost like more of a concern is, what is the black snake?
Yeah.
What is the black snake that defeats this this thing? And I feel like it's what I would call a like type of warfare. Okay. Certainly, you could take a snake and you could chop off its head, but you're not fighting a snake on his turf. Whatever this black snake is, it's something that your mom has access to, and it's something that can take down this this thing in particular without any trouble at all. She doesn't even sweat. She just grabs it, takes authority over it. Mm-hmm. I think the key parts of the dream are, what does the snake represent? Again, it has to do with your family. It has to do with your bloodline. It has to do with your mom and dad. It may go further than your mom and dad. Your dad is exhausted and in the chair from battling this thing that apparently has literally thrown him all over the place. And your mom is completely unfazed and unmoved by the presence of the snake and just deals with it almost unceremoniously.
So, quick question then. I look up to my mother and father more than anybody in this world. They are both very spiritually solid. I'm blessed that that I have them, and so it makes me. I'm curious then about my father. I mean, I do a lot of history of my family and what that's looked like, and so maybe when you're talking about bloodlines, could it be that it goes even further back than my father? I don't know.
Absolutely, and it could be something that has been a struggle for your dad's side of the family more than your mom's side of the family.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's an exciting dream. It's a warfare dream. It's a dream of spiritual intelligence. It's a dream about bloodline, destiny, all those things. So I think it's something that you should pay attention to. It might even be something that you want to talk to your mom and dad about.
Okay. And I've shared it with them. So we've kind of been wrestling around a little bit with it. So,
yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thanks for sharing your dreams, Stephanie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Deanne Marie. Can you hear me? You're muted. There you go. Oh, there you go. Can you hear me, Dee?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up really
Yeah?
bad. There you are.
Oh.
You got it. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I sound like a commercial.
Yes, we can hear you.
I had written you about a dream that I had written you about a dream that I had not too long ago. Cats, I can't figure out how to do this camera.
You're breaking up a little bit. I'm gonna put you in the back, in the behind stage here, and I'm gonna pull somebody else up. Figure out your camera, and I'll bring you back on. Okay. Let me do Eileen.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you, Eileen?
Good. Thanks for taking my dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot
Thanks for
going on.
waiting.
Thank you. Okay. In the dream, I was little, and my father looked at me, and then I'm reading it off in an inappropriate way. I ducked around the corner so he couldn't see me. Now this is kind of like, it's just a lot going on in the dream. Then I remember my mom saying to me that a particular part of her body hurt, but she didn't tell me what the body part was. My father then aggravated her by intentionally causing pain to that body part, and she started screaming. Okay, and my oldest brother ran over to help her. Now this is like another part of the dream. Then when I looked over, my brother and my father were both connected by this. It's like a plastic. You ever see on Star Trek? They used to have these rings around their neck. Like they weren't lit up, but they were like connected by the neck with these rings around their neck. And also they had these masks over their heads that looked like stockings, but the texture of them looked like skin. I couldn't see their faces, but it was as if they were having a tug of war. And this is my father and brother to the death. I couldn't see their faces, even though I could see their faces. So it's like, I don't know how to explain that. And I woke up from the dream, and I was very disturbed. And both my father and my brother are deceased. So that dream was just disturbing for me. Had the dream like last year in the fall. So.
Okay, so it started out with your father looking at you inappropriately, and then you left, and then your mother. What did your mother tell you?
I ducked around. I ducked out of the way, like so he couldn't see me. You know what I mean?
And then your brother and your father were connected by this ring around their neck, and they were connected to each other, and they were like in this tug of war.
Right.
You know what I keep seeing? And I think it was, gosh, what movie was it in? There was a thing that they used to put on slaves that had a metal thing, and then it had like these things that would come up. I think the purpose was so you could never lay your head down and rest. Or you know what I'm talking about? So did it look like that at all?
Yeah, I would say. I can't remember the part up top, but like I said, it was like a metal ring. Maybe.
Metal ring.
Yeah, it was like a metal ring.
Yeah, to me it represents to me it's a bloodline dream, especially since both your father and your brother have passed away. So what God is doing is he's showing you something that either existed in real life in your family, Armistead, in that movie. That was definitely in that movie for sure. But if I feel like it's something that's been in your past or in your bloodline, maybe not even at your father's level, but it could be generations past that hasn't been dealt with, that God wants to bring to you. And I feel like, again, because they're deceased, it's God wants whatever this is, whatever this tug of war, it's something that the men in particular in your life, and it's showing obviously 2 generations, your contemporary, which is your brother, but your ancestor, which is your father, that they fought with this. And apparently it's not finished. It's not defeated, because what God wants to do is he wants to bring it to your attention, because he wants it to stop with you, that it doesn't go any further. I had I was praying for a group of people, and I was doing prophetic ministry. And I'm just going to tell the story. Some people may think this is weird. I thought it was weird at the time. But there was this very stately, tall, black gentleman, young guy, probably in his 20s. And he was like 6'4". And I was tired. You know, when you're doing a lot of ministry and you're just kind of tired and you're not filtering anymore, you're just kind of going with whatever it is. And I went to pray for this man, and I saw a tall tree and a noose around his neck. And so I reached up literally with no warning, and I grabbed this guy by his throat while I'm praying for him. And I pulled away like as if I was taking a noose off from around his neck. And I said, dude, I have no idea what this represents. I feel like there was something in your generational bloodline, whatever it is, it's been passed on. God wants it to end right here. It may be from 150 years ago, whatever it is, but God is saying that I'm going to deal with this thing in your generation, and whatever it is that has plagued generations of your family stops here with you. And God does that. I mean, God will take things that have been curses on a nation and curses on generations of people, and will say, I've given you the authority as a woman in your bloodline to say, whatever this is, it's not going to happen anymore. And I don't know I just get somewhat of a sense of a feeling that possibly the manner of their death may have had something to do with whatever this thing is on your family. And you don't have to answer that, but you'll know. But I feel like part of the way in which
more so my brother than my father, the man. Okay. And I have been praying for my family. Like, there are some generational things, and I've prayed about it. And I mean, it definitely resonates with me. I'm the only one. Well, me and my daughter are the only 2 saved in my whole family, too. So, you know, it really does. Now, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about another dream God gave me, that he told me that I was going to be the one that he was going to use to break generational curses. It's funny that I had that dream probably 20 years ago, and it's coming to me now. Like, I don't even think it was a dream. It was almost like I was praying to God, and God brought it to me, and he said, you're going to be the one. And so it's really, wow.
You're the one. You're the one. It falls to you. You're the spiritual leader in your family. I just feel that prophetically. And so what God is doing is he's showing you there's some business in your family line that he wants to deal with. There's literally a struggle, particularly it falls on the men's side, and particularly it's multi-generational, like it's fathers fighting sons. And it's a spirit that wants to turn your generation against each other, where instead of fighting the forces that would come against the family or the spiritual forces, they want to fight one another. And it's that thing that God wants that broken off. He wants it. He has to shine a light on it. So he's got to tell somebody. So he's telling you, because he knows that you have a spiritual sense. He knows that you're a woman of God. He knows that you can pray and break generational curses, and that it stops and it doesn't go any further, because there's going to be multiple generations past you that are no longer going to have to deal with, and they may not even ever know in the spirit what you accomplish, but God's bringing it to you because it's like a snake that you can cut the head off and you can say, it does not go any further. There's a new level of freedom that God, freedom literally from bondage, freedom from infighting, freedom from multi-generational warfare. I'm reminded of that verse. What is it? The call of Elijah, that turns the hearts of the fathers to their children and children to their fathers. So there was a disconnect in the dream between you and your father because of the look that he threw at you, that you're like, okay, I don't want anything to do. I'm going to run and hide. But then there was a warfare between your brother and your father. And it was that turning. The enemy wants to tear families apart and turn them against each other. And even though 2 of the 3 people in the dream are deceased, God is saying, you're the one that's still in the arena. You're the one that's still alive. They're in the cloud of witnesses right now. And so it falls to you. And they're even saying, yes, we want a deeper level of freedom for the bloodlines, the generations that come past it. And so God is showing you this dream and letting you know that you have the power, not only the power, but the authority. He's showing you this specifically because you have the authority to defeat this thing that has plagued your family. And I believe he'll let you know exactly what it is.
And you didn't see anything as far as my mom, nothing about her being in the dream.
I didn't.
But I didn't see it. No, that's okay. I was just wondering. Okay, well, it really resonates with me. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing the dream
much.
with us. That's amazing. Appreciate it. Flory Pond at AOL.
Hello. Can you
Hey,
hear
how
me?
are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I just have a short dream. I was in my son's room, and then with him, and then his twin came in, but he doesn't have a twin, so he looks exactly like him. And then I just I invited him. I felt shocked because I say, how could I forget that I had a twin son? I mean, I was shocked. But then I invited him to stay, and I said, you can stay here in Jonathan's room. My son's name is Jonathan. You can stay here, and across his bed there was another one, and he was going to be there. His name, and that's the important part, it was Enrique, which means Henry, which means it's a Germanic name that means Heinrich, that literally means Lord of the house. And then he was, I knew in the dream that this twin has all the better personality than my own son. He has better qualities than my son. And then he stayed, and I woke up.
So
I don't know if it is me. Sorry, go ahead.
So it wasn't it was your son in the dream, but it wasn't your son?
It was a twin. And
it was
I was shocked.
A twin, his twin.
Yeah, his twin. I didn't know that I had a twin, and I was shocked. But then I say, oh yeah, that's true. I had a twin. Jonathan had a twin brother. And then I asked him to stay, and in Jonathan's room, and there was a bed across from my son's, and then I knew that his name was Enrique or Henry or Heinrich, and that means Lord of the house, literally in German. And then I knew that this twin brother had better qualities than my own son. So
what do you mean by better qualities? You feel like he was a more godly man?
Personality. I think that his personality was even better. And I was kind of, I don't like to admit this, but this guy has better personality. Yeah.
Okay.
And
And in real life, Jonathan doesn't have a twin.
no.
Okay. So I feel like what God is doing is he's giving you an invitation into an identity that your son has, and he's allowing you to see it before it manifests. And the reason is, so for several reasons. One, so you can begin to pray into it, but it's more than prayer. It's so that you can begin to act towards him in a certain way. I think, if you have a son, I have a son, I have daughters, and if you have children, a lot of times there can be drama in them, in the relationships that cause you to look at them in light of drama that's happened in the past. And I feel like what God wants to do is he wants to create a newness and a freshness. It's your son, but it's as if your son had a twin, where any of the past stuff that's happened in your life with your son, you wouldn't attribute to his twin. You would look at this like, well, this is a whole different person. And you would invite him in and you would say, stay here. And you would give him, an honored place in the house and all of these things. And I feel like what God is saying is he's going to do a work with your son's identity, and he's going to change his identity in a positive way, where he's going to feel like a completely different person, but he's going to look exactly the same. And I feel like what God is doing is he's giving you the 411. He's giving you the information on it in advance, because he wants you to begin to treat him as if he is a completely different person that was more like the guy in the dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very, very. And I want to throw this one. He just came back from the hospital, so he had this dream, and I want him interpreted. It's very important for him. He was in a beach. He was in a beach, tropical beach. He said that it was a kind of an untouched beach, very pristine, tropical beach. And just for a while, he walked around the beach and found a house, and the house was empty. When he came back to the beach, he was waiting for his sister and me, and he knew that we were coming. And at the beach, from the beach, he went up to a mountain, and when he was half of the mountain climbing to get to the peak, he just realized that he wanted us with him, and because he wanted us to name the peak. And then he came down the mountain to get us, and all the way up again, because he was going to give us the option to name the peak. And that was it.
Who was this who was this in the dream?
My son, Jonathan.
Jonathan. Okay, so he's on a beach. There's an empty house. And what's happening in the house?
Nothing. The important part that I think was that the beach was an island, like tropical island. Mm-hmm. And he was there, and he went to a house. He went to the door, but there wasn't anybody in the house. So he came back to the beach because he wanted to be with us in the beach. And he knew that we were there. And he knew that we were coming to the beach. And then he went up the mountain. He climbed the mountain. But when he was midway, he realized, oh no, I'm going to come back for them, because I want them to come with me and name the peak. Put a name on when you climb a mountain, and I don't know. That's what he said. So, and we did.
That's really interesting. When you talk about the house, I hear clean, swept, and empty. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with that term?
Kind of.
So in the Bible, it talks about, I think it's Jesus talking. I could be wrong, but it's talking about if you want to enter the home of a strong man, you must first bind, it's talking about the strong man. And it talks about if there's a demonic spirit or something nefarious that's occupying, and you kick it out of the house, but you leave the house clean, swept, and empty, that spirit will go find 7 spirits worse than itself and come and occupy the house. So it's talking about a moment in time when he's gotten rid of any nefarious forces in his life. And what needs to happen is the house needs to be filled. You guys are on the beach, which tends to be for most people a place of rest and rejuvenation, restoration, relaxing. And what he wants to do is work. The work that he's doing is he's climbing this mountain. He wants to reach a level. And again, I believe it's kind of the new self, right? It's when the house is clean and swept and empty. He wants to achieve a level of promotion or a level of a depth in God, right? He wants to climb a mountain. There's a lot of work involved and effort involved in doing that. And then halfway up, he realizes, I don't want to do this alone. So he comes back for you guys, and then he wants you guys to be on the journey with him, to go to literally to ascend to the peak. You know, I hear the verse, and I think it's in Psalms, who can ascend into the hill of the Lord, right? And so it's the idea that he...
Clean hands.
Say what?
Go on.
So I feel like that's what he wants to do, but he wants to do it with his family. He wants you to go with him. And I feel like once he conquers that mountain, once he gets to a place of literally on the peak, like he does the ascent, he's going to own it. It's going to be like his thing. And part of this is, I believe it's part of the destiny that God has for him. Mountains can also represent like the 7 mountains, if you guys have heard of that before, where it talks about there's 7 different areas of influence. One is education, one is government, one is business, one is family, one is religion, and arts and entertainment. So this can represent like his chosen profession or his chosen place of influence that he's going to ascend to, but he doesn't want to do it alone. He wants to do it with family. And I feel like part of that, and I don't know this, but I just get the feeling like he's been a little bit distant from the family because of things that have happened or choices that he's made. And what he wants is he wants you all to be together with him as he goes into this higher place in his life. And he enters into the land that God has for him, the land that you will all name together, because it'll be the hill that, or the mountain that he conquers, that it'll be named for him, and he'll be a leader or a ruler in that realm. So I think the actionable intelligence is the house needs to be dealt with. The house is clean and swept and empty. It needs to be filled, meaning there needs to be an infilling of the Holy Spirit after whatever it is that he's dealing with in his life now. After that's kind of flushed out of his life, it's not just a zero sum. It's not to, you know, like for example, if somebody was addicted to drugs and alcohol and then they get clean, that's not enough. They don't just get clean. They need to get clean and filled with the Holy Spirit, because if they don't, there's nothing that replaces it. Just like in Ephesians 5, it says, do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. It's not just don't get drunk anymore. It's don't get drunk and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And so I feel like whatever it is that needs to be cleaned up in his life, he needs it to be cleaned up, but it needs to be filled with something in its place. And just like the house being clean represents him at a certain point in his life. At this point now, he wants to begin to work towards his destiny, but then he realized, I don't want to do the destiny alone. It's just like, I don't want to live in the house alone anymore. I don't want the house to be empty, and I don't want my journey to be devoid of my family. So I'm going to take my family with me on this journey, and we're going to celebrate the wins and the successes. And when we get up to the peak, we're going to name it together for us, because we're going to take this journey as a family. So I believe it's heralding a time of massive change in his life. It's a warning, or basically not even a warning, but a direction that not only does he need to forget the former ways, but he needs to fill himself with the Holy Spirit. And then it's also talking about a closeness and a restoration in your family, that you're going to do some things together that are going to be significant. Even I believe in history, that there's going to be a significance to the destiny that is fulfilled, but he's going to lead the way in that.
I think you're right on. I feel the anointing when you were just speaking.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
That's an
interpreting
amazing dream. I love it. Wow.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, that's all we have time for today. I'm so sorry for those that are still waiting that we didn't get a chance to get to. We love you. I definitely want to do this as much as we can. We try to cut it at an hour, but we get 2.5 hours in and we could go on for another 4. So thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for just being part of our community. By the way, if you don't know, Anna and I, my partner, we put together a 21 Dreams Through the Bible study series. It's on the Dream Life Decoded channel on YouTube. It's on the Anna Kate channel as well. It's all free. There's an ebook associated with it that's just all the scripture verses that include all the dreams in the Bible and all the verses on dreams. You can go to dreamlifedecoded.com. There's discussion on dreams. There's a couple of videos on there, but you can go all the way down to the bottom, enter your email, press enter, and you'll be on our mailing list, by the way, but you'll also have free access to the ebook. We just want to give that to you. If you want to know more about dreams, I would start there, get a big, strong biblical foundation, know what the Bible says about dreams, what it doesn't say. But also, we launched we're at the tail end. We got a couple of weeks left of our first group of spiritual intelligence mentorship. We've gotten just so much incredible feedback. God is doing some amazing things. The Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship is for people that want to go deeper, not just with a biblical foundation in their dreams, but how exactly do you interpret? I love these times because we can share together. But what's really interesting is if you're able to interpret your dreams on your own. I don't want people to look at me as the source. I want people to look at the Holy Spirit and God as the source. And so I don't ever want to be like the answer that people, well, I need John to interpret my dream, because the dreams and the interpretation comes from the Lord. So don't look at me as your source or as a particular teacher or a leader, even in dream interpretation. But what we want to do is we want to raise up a new generation of people that are involved in what we call spiritual intelligence. And it's not just taking like one dream and saying, here's a notepad and we need somebody to interpret what this says, but it's taking multiple dreams, multiple prophetic words, bringing them together and creating a consensus that says, okay, through all these different pathways of God speaking to us, here's all of that information put together, and this is what this means. This is the kind of intelligence that we're doing for governmental leaders. We're doing for CEOs of Fortune 100 companies. We've done this kind of work for people in Hollywood. We've done this for people that advise the President of the United States. So it's not cheesy or hokey in any way. It's a very, very serious mantle that people are picking up, and they're deciding to say, I want to go deeper in this area. I want to understand the concept of spiritual intelligence, and I want to be mentored in this thing. If that's you, write a paragraph, send it in an email to dreamlifedecoded@gmail.com, and just simply tell me why you feel like you would want to be part of our spiritual intelligence mentorship and why you think you would add value. We just need a paragraph. Some people write 3 pages. We don't need that. Don't send dreams with that. People want to send dreams with that. We just kind of want to say, okay, God, who do you want us to mentor, and what does that look like? Kind of get a flavor for what you're going through in your life or what your background is in dreams or the prophetic. It's real simple. Just a paragraph is all we need. Send it in. We're going to start our new class probably mid-July. It'll run for about 7 weeks. It'll meet 2 or 3 times a week. It's intense. It's not like church. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours every time we meet. But people are getting a lot out of it. So I just want to invite you if that's something that you're interested in. But thank you so much for joining us today and joining me today. And thank you for being a part of what we're doing in spiritual intelligence and having interest in what we're building with dream interpretation. So we're going to end it here. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be doing this again real soon. Have a good night.